Well, this has certainly been a week, hasn't it? What are they doing over there at Konami, man? So if you guys don't know, Konami introduced some changes to the time rules, and, well, depending on who you ask, they're either the best thing since sliced bread or not, to put it a bit more kindly there. Me personally, I think there's some good and some bad in the new time rules. I'm kind of more of a middle of the road guy here myself, so I would actually like to take this moment to go over what the old time rules were, what the new time rules are, and my thoughts on what could be improved on the new rules. Now, just to preface this video, the new time rules are only in effect for the World Championship qualifiers. They are not in effect just yet for everything else, but they are planned to be implemented at the regional level and other high-end tournament stuff as well. So keep that in mind. Also, Konami did say that these rules have not been finalized, so there may be some changes coming down the pike, so don't panic just yet if you don't like these rules. So let's go over the old rules for a second. So the old rules were 45 minutes for a match, and the match consisted of 3 games or duels. A match was considered over if a duelist lost 2 games or won 2 games. And whenever time would be called, the phase in which time was called would be played out, and once a phase shift occurred, so main phase going into battle phase, etc., then the match would be considered over. Now, in these old rules, if a player had higher life points than the opponent whenever time was called and the phase shift occurred, that player would be given the game. If both players got a win over the other in a game, and in game 3 their life points were the same, or they were going into game 3, so into game 2, then the match would be considered a draw. A lot of people don't like this system just because of the fact that it allows for draws. And draws typically, if you ask any professional players, or any person that takes the game super seriously and goes to all these high-end tournaments, they're not very fond of the time rules just because you can get bubbled out of the top 16 or the top 8 just because you have draws. Like, you can go undefeated the whole day. If you have a draw, you're technically undefeated. You have not lost a game. But due to that draw, you can still be taken out of the top 16 or the top 8 of that tournament. Not a lot of people like this, but it's the system that we have now. Also, it gives a bit of an unfair advantage to burn decks that have access to burn abilities or gain life point ability. Because in game 3, if time is called in the main phase and the deck has a way to either burn the opponent's life points or gain life points, such as like Malice, Vanquish Soul, Volcanics if you run those, all those either have ways to gain life points or burn the opponent. It kind of gives them an unfair edge in game 3 because once they burn those opponent's life points and then just phase shift, then the game's over and they get game 3, which gives them the match. Now, I think Konami was trying to rectify this with these new rules, and I'll go over what the new rules are right now. So the new rules are the time limit has been extended from 45 minutes to 50 minutes. Already, that's a big plus. I do like that. However, what has people so up in arms here, and some people are kind of misreading the rules here, but the rules state if a match is not completed, which again is when a duelist either wins 2 games or loses 2 games. If a match is not completed, it will be considered a double loss. So both duelists will be considered having lost that match. Now, some people really like this because it gets rid of draws and they're like, okay, great. It forces the opponent to play fast. It forces the opponent to do all this stuff. It's fantastic. It gets rid of draws as well on the card. That's great. I understand that, but we'll actually go over my thoughts on it here in a minute. But that's basically what the new rules are. And also, one more thing in the new rules is that phase shifts do not occur when time is called. When time is called, the match is over. There is no playing out the phase. There is no going to phase shift. It is over whenever time is called. Everybody drops their cards, drops what they're doing. So, here's my thoughts on the matter. I think the new time rules have certain good facets and certain bad facets. I think Konami's mind was in the right place here. What I think they're trying to do, especially with Vanquish Soul now being considered a top deck in the TCG, is that they don't want to give these burn decks and these decks that have access to burn or life point gain an unfair advantage, which I completely agree with. I think a deck having access to a burn effect or a life point gain effect already ups their tier at least by 1 just because of the time rules. Now, I think they went about it the wrong way. And the reason why is simple. Game 1. Game 1 can last the whole match. And not just because of slow playing, because this game can be very, very, very interactive. I've had game ones that last the entire match time, and they are fantastic. It's billboards, breakboards, very interactive, very strategic. I wouldn't trade those experiences for the world. They are fantastic to be a part of. I hope you guys have that experience of having just such a good like as Jim Ross would say, slobber knocker. That game one was a slobber knocker. I hope you guys had the experience of having one of those one day. But due to that, with these new time rules, someone could tank the entire match out of spite going into game two if game two, say, it has like 10 minutes left on the clock or something. The opponent could just combo through, go through their full combo, wasting out the time, and then both duelists are given a match loss. And even then, maybe they're not doing it out of spite. Maybe they just want to play their deck and get through their combo. But just because they did not finish that match, just because they had a really good game one and didn't go into game two, they're both punished for it. I don't really think that's the best way of handling this. Also, some people, whenever they're talking about the new time rules, are saying, oh, it's not really punishment because it's a game loss. They're saying it's a double game loss, not a double match loss. No, if you read specifically the rules, they say the match will be considered a double loss. The wording's a bit strange on it, and Konami did say that some of the wording wasn't misinterpreted, so this could be the case. But from the way I read it and the way I understood it, it very explicitly stated the match will be considered a double loss. So, how do they rectify this game one type situation? Well, I would say the person that wins game one and then time's called, you just give the match to that person. Easy, simple, effective. Don't count it as a double loss. Only count it as a double loss when a draw would be had. Instead of a draw, just make all draws double losses in the records. That's my take on it. I think that's the best way to do it. I think the 50-minute time limit thing is great. I think the no phase transition is great. I think the no draws thing is great. I think that's all fantastic. It gets rid of the inherent advantage that burn decks have. It gets rid of the inherent advantage that decks that gain life points have, in that they simply just sit there, and when time's called, the match is over. There's no opportunity to burn your opponent. There's no opportunity to gain life points, so you have to do it there. Just get rid of the phase transition and count draws as double losses, and you're set. You're fine. I think that's the best way to do it here. I think if they did that, then the rules would make a lot more sense to a lot more people. There is one other thing as well about the new rules that I have thoughts on, and that is it punishes certain strategies in the game. Now, it takes away the inherent advantages of some strategies. It takes away the advantage of burning the opponent and gaining life points on the opponent in game three. It takes away those inherent advantages of those decks, which I think is a good thing. But it also unfairly punishes not just the player, but their opponent if they go into a regionals or worlds or something with a certain strategy. And that strategy being stun or deck out or any kind of slow build up strategies. Now, I know, I'm not a big fan of stun. I think stun players and stun is I will say it's a strategy. I'll just leave it at that. But at the same time, it is a strategy. There are cards made to play it, and invalidating those cards with these new time rules and invalidating those strategies to the point where players will not want to play them. Even for fun, they won't play them because these rules are going to get implemented at the local level just to help people test for those higher up tournament events. If those rules keep people from playing certain decks that they just maybe want to play for fun, like Destiny board or Runic, and who's playing Runic for fun these days? I don't know. But Runic, Destiny board, Mayakashi with Soul Absorbing Bone Tower to deck the opponent out. Stuff like that. If it keeps people from using those cards and any cards that may be implemented for that strategy in the future, then it's a net negative on the game for those rules to exist. And that's just my opinion on it. I think the new way to do things would be if a draw would be declared, then it's just treated as a double loss. The winner of game one and then going into game two with 5 minutes left or something, the opponent can't take them out of spite. They can't take them at all, basically. If your game one lasts the whole match and that person wins, it's kind of like a Master Duel game, best of one. I think they deserve the win on that match in that instance, which I think Konami should just reword the rules to basically say if a draw would be declared instead a double loss would be declared, which I think fixes the entire thing, but that's just my humble opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you want more content like this. This has been a crazy week with Konami implementing the rules, retracting them, and then putting them back in, but then saying that they're not finalized. So it's a whole thing. But yeah, this is DocJinzo signing out. Y'all have a good one.